of California. And Congressman, we were just talking about Jeff Sessions, the Attorney General, a moment ago, and you said Jeff Sessions is the only one who can do this to right this wrong ship, but he's not doing it. Should the president fire Jeff Sessions, Congressman?
Well, I think that the president has an obligation to make it clear, and I think he's done that Jeff Sessions has to step up to the plate and do his job. He's ordered open and transparent communication. In other words, give Congress the documents they're asking for in the most unredacted way possible. And what he's done is allowed the bureaucrats to slow walk us and give us documents that look like a black cow eating a licorice at midnight. They're just all black.
That's right.
And that's unacceptable. And so when the president, rightfully so, says that if Jeff Sessions won't do it, then the president will, in fact, use his authority to clear the classified request and the attorney-client privilege and the presidential prerogatives out of the way and make it available. And this is something that needs to be done. Of course, you need to make sure that if somebody life is at risk, that you protect them. But after that, the rest of it really is the president saying he wants to be open and transparent, and every one of his cabinet officers needs to heed that and provide that kind of information quickly.
Yeah. Well, why wouldn't he declassify these documents, Congressman? I mean, you know, when I asked him that, when I interviewed the president in July of this year, he said, well, some people are saying don't do it. You know, they don't want me to get involved. And then, of course, we know that the special counsel is trying to look for any obstruction. But why would that be obstruction? Wouldn't that just be shining a light on things, making it more transparent? What's the downside risk?
Well, one of the interesting things is, of course, the special prosecutor gets everything completely unredacted. We're only asking to, quite frankly, look over his shoulder and look over the shoulder of other investigations that should occur. Understand, the president inherited a system that likes to give no one anything. I often say that the most highly classified thing there is anywhere in Washington is embarrassment. And so often it's what they don't want you to know because they don't want to be embarrassed. It's not real classification. Right. The president is doing the right thing, exactly the opposite of President Obama. He's saying make it open and transparent. When Jeff Sessions was a senator, he certainly would have said, I want the information. He, in fact, maybe not as quickly as John McCain, made the moral argument that we needed to know about Benghazi and prevent that from happening again.
Right.
And he demanded documents. Now he needs to be on the other side saying Congress has an absolute right, the American people have a right, and he needs to lead that or get out of the way. When I say get out of the way, somebody has to replace him that will do it if he won't.
Well, you said that the special counsel gets to see everything unredacted. You know, a lot of people have been making the point recently, me included, that the special counsel's investigation will not have credibility unless he looks at everything, both sides. I mean, we know that Hillary Clinton and the DNC paid upwards of $1 million for that dossier. They spent the money on the dossier, then they used the dossier to get a warrant to wiretap. They did not tell the FISA court that the DNC and Hillary Clinton paid that $1 million for it. And yet, you know, we haven't heard a word about this from the special counsel. Can Robert Mueller continue this investigation without looking at the FISA process and what took place in 2016?
Well, I think a way to put it, and I agree with you, is Rod Rosenstein needs to give specific instructions that says you can and should do that. And if he isn't willing to do it, we have to look to his own culpability in that false FISA warrant that he had a part in.
Right, he's a witness. Let me switch gears real quick, Congressman, and ask you about China and trade, because really stunning developments on Friday when the president decided to stop Mike Pompeo from going to North Korea for this planned trip, and then talked about how China is not where he thought they should be in terms of trade. Where are we in this battle with China right now?
Well, you know, the way you get a deal, whether it's a national security deal with North Korea and their nuclear weapons, or a trade deal that begins to give some level of fairness from China, is you've got to be willing to walk away from it. The president is the master of the art of the deal. He wants to be there. He clearly will turn Mike Pompeo around, the secretary, in hours. if there's an opportunity, but he's not going to send them there just to have a pretty portrait of people shaking hands. And I think that's the difference in this negotiator is the deal's off if you're not making progress. The deal's back on quickly if you are. He's done it before. He can do it again. But Maria, the thing that I think the American people have to understand is although trade is a national security issue, you cannot continue to give away hundreds of billions of dollars of the American people's hard-earned money to China just because China has a bad actor that periodically will misbehave and they use it as leverage. And that's exactly what China continues to do.
It's true. And they won't even admit that they're taking the IP and that they're stealing so much technology from the U.S. and forcing the transfer of tech. So we'll see if this strategy works in terms of changing China's behavior. We love having you on, sir. Please come back soon. Great to see you, Congressman.
Thanks, Maria.
Congressman Darrell Issa there, remembering a senator, war hero, and former Republican presidential nominee, John McCain. Our panel is here with that and other big stories of the week. A panel up next. Stay with us as we look ahead on Sunday Morning Futures.